When he took the job at SoFi, he told the board, it's a matter of when, not if, we become a top 10 financial institution. And every decision he makes is positioning SoFi to get there. Under his leadership, SoFi became a bank, surpassed $2.5 billion in revenue, and has grown to over 10 million members.
I think the best way to describe my leadership philosophy is to look at our core values. If you look at our 11 core values, that's what I believe it takes to be a great leader. That's what I believe it takes to be a great teammate. That's what I believe it takes to have a great culture. In addition to that, we talk about a founder's mentality, which I think is unique to being a technology company and unique to an innovative company. And we have defined what a founder's mentality is. And being the gold standard of that founder's mentality is part of my leadership style as well. Today, I like to go to a first principles sort of concept. And, we use a decision-making framework at SoFi called DACY. And I think it's a great framework to help people that aren't in the business of making decisions every day. And I think it's a great framework in companies that are moving very fast and innovating significantly. So I like to start with the principles. Like, what is the criteria that we believe is the correct criteria to use as a decision-making mechanism? And then against those principles or that criteria, what are the choices and how does each choice compare against those principles? And if you go through that process, you're going to 90% of the time know the answer without having to individually make the decision. What's critical, though, in the how you do that is that you bring in all of the contributors that can have a point of view on those principles so that you debate them and you have a very thorough process of what, has been referred to as getting to the truth. Let's make sure we have all the data, all the perspectives when we're deciding what these principles are. And if you're not willing to have that debate and you're not willing to get to the truth, I am 100% certain you'll fail 100% of the time. But if you're comfortable bringing in the contributors and bringing in the thought leaders and the people that could have the best perspectives, and you want all of them, then you're going to have a very high probability of picking the right principles. And then if you're truthful yourself and you look at the data and you compare the choices against those principles and it becomes obvious, then you have a really good probability of being successful in how you're making decisions and how you're allocating resources and how you're managing risks. And so that's the frameworks that, we use at the company and what I use. I often will say to someone that's in their late 30s, if I was the 35-year-old or 37-year-old Anthony Noto, I would probably have said, here's the answer and here's why, and not had the patience and the desire to go through that debate, to go through that participative process. But I have found through a lot of scars, a lot of lessons learned, that the organization is stronger and better at driving towards an objective and executing against a plan to go through that process. In addition to everyone being more motivated because they participated in that process and they understand it, they will fight harder to break through walls when things get put in front of them. And most importantly, you're actually making the best decision on the best information you can have. So that's how I think about it. The world's changing very quickly. The OCC put out an interpretive letter that now allows SoFi to be back in the crypto business. And I couldn't be more excited. Spent the whole weekend working my butt off and talking to dozens of people to make sure that we capitalize on this opportunity as fast as we possibly can. And so, it's a new day, and every day can be a new day. And that's a great example of waking up and not knowing what's going to happen. It turns out to be, I was elated when I saw that information. And I'm even more elated knowing what's in store for us in front of us in terms of cryptocurrencies.
What do you expect fintech to look like 5 years from now? And how does AI play into that?
Well, first, I think fintech, just like retail and travel and media, is going to be a winner take most area. And that means the digital companies, the winners in the digital world, in the technology world, will take most of the riches. I think it will differ by category. I think SoFi is positioned to be the winner that takes most in the one-stop shop. Robinhood is positioned to be the best in taking the most in just pure brokerage and trading and investing. What they do outside of that is yet to be seen. I think Affirm is great at buy now, pay later, but there's also Klarna and Block in that regard. But I think the companies that are leaders in their specific sectors today will end up being those leaders in the future. I think it's very hard to change colors overnight. So I think the strong will get stronger. I think there will be consolidation among those that are not strong, those that can't be the super scalar leaders like we will be. And I do think AI will drive tremendous amount of innovation. I think it's a platform level type of change. It'll definitely help us achieve our mission much easier. In order for us to help people get their money right, we need to be a one-stop shop. But we also need to be able to take all the data we have on people and answer 3 questions every day. What must they do that day in their financial life to get their money right? What should they do that day in their financial life to get their money right? And what could they do? And AI is a great way to deliver those answers. I think AI will be a critical element in reducing fraud, providing better trust, better safety and soundness. I think it will also be a great tool in driving more personalization and more innovation more broadly on products and services. I think cryptocurrency is also now in the forefront as another platform that will drive tremendous amounts of innovation that impact the next 5 years. And we hope to be squarely at the center of that hurricane, so to speak.
So you may have already answered this, but last question, what excited you the most about joining SoFi in 2018, and what excites you the most today about it?
I had a front row seat to seeing the disruption of the retail industry, the media industry, the travel industry. And it was obvious to me that no one had truly done to the financial services what the leading technology companies had done to those other industry groups. And the reason why no one had truly done that had a lot to do with capital, had a lot to do with regulation. And those things scare off technology people. They don't scare me. I believe that our embracing of those elements is a competitive advantage. And I think our expertise in technology and our embracing those other 2 elements has allowed us to scale faster than anyone else. I just saw something on Twitter that showed we had the fastest growth rate over the last 7 years of any of the fintech companies measured by somebody. I think we were doing roughly $250 million of revenue when I got here, and we just finished 2024 with over $2.6 billion of revenue. So quite an accomplishment, but it's still day one. We've barely scratched the surface on the market share we're going to take, on the innovation that we're going to drive, and the disruption that we'll bring to the industry. So I couldn't be more excited about where we are, and the change that will happen over the next 5 years will be compounded relative to what we saw over the last 5 because of AI and cryptocurrency.
All right, well, that was the end of our regularly scheduled programming. Now we do a couple creative segments. These are lightning round, quick answer stuff. The first one is called The Word. You've said before that strategy requires having a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So in one word, what is your big, hairy, audacious goal for SoFi?
I can't share a big, hairy, audacious goal or BHAG for SoFi, because if I do, then others are going to copy it.
Okay.
But what I will reiterate, which will ladder up to the BHAG, is that we want to be a top 10 financial institution measured by market cap in our country. We want to be a top 15 technology company measured by market cap. Those are long-term aspirational goals. It takes a lot to get there. You could apply multiples to those numbers to figure out what we have to get to in revenue and earnings and then members. But those are pretty audacious statements that people don't recognize how audacious they are until they back into the amount of revenue and profit you need to have to get to those market capitalizations. But I believe in my heart, it is ours for the taking. And it's a matter of when it happens, not if it happens.
Next one is the aha moment. Tell us about a time when a plan or decision wasn't working out, wasn't going according to plan, and the aha moment that helped you turn it back around.
I'll give you one that turned into an offensive stance. We were launching SoFi Money, and I kept going through all the points of difference, the differentiation, the value prop. And every time I came up with a new way of doing something, I was told we can't do that. FIS doesn't do that. FIS won't do that. This won't do that. We can't do it. And that's when I realized, oh my God, we are not going to achieve the vision that I have for this company if we don't own the technology. We have to own the technology. We can't rely on other people to own the core technology, the core capabilities. We have to control our own pace of innovation. We have to be able to control our own pace of testing. We have to own all the data. And that was a aha moment. And we were about to launch the product, which led to the acquisition of Galileo and the other moves we've made in the technology platform business. And, there's more to see there, more for us to do. And again, just scratching the surface.
Okay. Next one is the moonshot move. If you had unlimited money and no regulations holding you back, what is a fintech move that you'd make?
We would be much more aggressive in disrupting the existing payment rails across debit, credit, ACH, and other infrastructure plays. We'd be much more aggressive on the technology platform side, like unbelievably aggressive, and completely disrupting the incumbents across payments, the incumbents across deposits, the incumbents across the key underlying infrastructure that enables finance to happen in our country.
Okay. All right, last one. Unpopular opinion. What is a widely accepted truth in business that you completely disagree with?
I think a lot of investors and market participants think innovation is a result of a great idea. And that is not innovation. In fact, there's plenty of great ideas that have never unfolded or become a reality. I think the key to innovation is actually iteration. And when I first got to the company and I talked about launching products and I talked about those products being world-class, I emphasized that world-class is achieved not by a vision, but by a commitment to constantly iterating, testing, and learning. And that the light bulb is the best example of what iteration can lead to from an innovation standpoint. And the iteration that exists in the light bulb hasn't stopped. But the light bulb was it started as a combination of different scientific experiments until you came out with the right levels of resistance, the right current or voltage, the right filaments, where that thing lit and stayed lit with electricity. And so I'm a big believer that innovation is a direct result of iteration and learning. Sometimes that iteration and learning leads you to a different idea. So fractional shares is a good example. Now, fractional shares have been copied by everybody, but we pioneered it. But what caused us to do it? Well, we kept looking at what are the most popular stocks on SoFi? And we kept seeing Ford and General Electric. And I couldn't understand why they're the most popular stocks, because we have a younger audience. Mm-hmm. And why wasn't Tesla and Amazon or Apple the most popular stocks? And it turned out they're the most popular because they were the lowest priced. They were $9 each. We were hitting new and novice investors. And those people didn't want to spend $2,000 they didn't have $2,000 to spend. And so that's what reinforced the innovation of fractional shares. And I can give you example after example of example where we've iterated on offerings to turn into a good innovation. And you'll see more and more of that. And so I think the misperception is the great idea. It's not. It's the iteration that leads to the actual idea becoming a reality. And typically the idea is different than the initial hypothesis or thesis.